Here's a fun activity to try out in the bedroom. No, that's not good. This project is for the bedroom, and this is one place where I'd like to preserve the ambience over having a lot of visible tech. After all, the bedroom is the most sacred space in a home. So we're still having fun, still having lots of fun, but in the bedroom, smart home tech shall neither be seen nor heard. My HomePod Mini really takes that rule to heart. So today, with a light strip and a motion sensor, we're building a nightlight automation, and we're gonna make my bed glow.
I'm Patrick Hunt, and I want you to like smart home tech as much as I do. Real solutions with Matter, Apple Home, and a little creativity. Weekly, I'll show you how small upgrades can make a big difference. Welcome.
First off, I'm on Instagram now, @MakeSmartMatter. It's largely just behind-the-scenes stories like me crawling around in our attic installing recessed lights. It's also a great place to get in touch and connect and chat. There, I said it. I love the glowing bed project because it's incredibly easy, it's cheap, and it adds a lot to your bedroom, both aesthetically and functionally. Think of when you're hanging something on a wall. You gotta center it, level it, put a power cable to it, make that look nice. And for this, of course, you gotta make the light strip look nice, but after that, the plug, any excess cable, you're just gonna stuff that under your bed along with whatever else you got under there. Okay, so what do we need? We're starting with one of the new SwitchBot Matter lights, the RGB IC WW strip light. And we're using that for a couple of reasons. First, it's 5 meters long or 16 feet. And the other reason is that it's natively Matter compatible, meaning that we don't need the SwitchBot hub in order to integrate that into Apple Home or any of our other ecosystems. It is Matter over Wi-Fi, which I have previously said to use sparingly. Well, here's sparingly. I think the Hue alternative to this would have cost about $300, whereas this costs $50. And if you're watching this on Black Friday, then $30. This version of the light strip has the ability to display multiple different colors simultaneously using independent chips, and it has a music mode in the app as well, etc. And then you're gonna need a motion sensor. I went with the Aqara P2. This is a Matter over Thread motion sensor, and I usually like the Eve motion for my motion sensors, but I specifically chose the Aqara P2 for this project in particular, and I will explain why later. The P2 is typically $34, but again, for Black Friday, it's $27, meaning if you're Black Friday shopping, then this whole project can cost you around $65, assuming you already have the Matter and Thread infrastructure in place. You could also use a presence sensor. The Lafair LWR01 is $50, but today for Black Friday, it's $35. I think a presence sensor is probably a bit overkill for this use, and I'll also explain that later as well. But hey, if the price is right, why not? First, you're going to install the light strip on the inside underneath your bed frame. Please resist every urge in your body to just put it on the underside of the bed frame. It breaks the illusion if you can actually see the light strip itself, and I promise you the effect will still be effective, even facing inward. You just have to trust the process. I'm confident some of the best lighting in your house is not direct, harsh lighting, and that's the same concept here. Included in the box is about half a dozen little hooks with either a screw or 3M tape on the back. I highly recommend screwing these in instead of using the 3M tape because the light strip itself has 3M tape all along the back of it. So if one day in the distant future the adhesive fails, at least the screws will still be holding strong. I did a horrible job spacing these out, so I actually filled the gaps with picture hangers that I bent to cradle the light strip better. Those I did put up with the adhesive, and some of them have already fallen off. You don't need to use the 3M tape all along the strip for the whole bed. I just scored the back and ripped the paper in strategic places. Also, you want to make sure that the light strip fits tightly into the corners without tugging or stretching in either direction. Given that this light strip is 16 feet, one light strip fits an entire king bed for the most part. Just plan a little bit better than I did and start a little further down so it's symmetrical on both sides. If you have a queen bed and this light strip is too long, that's totally fine because you can cut it to size. It's easiest to remove the mattress to get access to screw those hooks in. You know, if I'm being honest, you probably don't need them. Just rip the paper off the back of the light strip and stick it to the bottom of the bed frame and call it a day. Of course, every bed frame is different, but I tried to get it as close to the bottom as humanly possible without it poking out underneath. And visibility is key here. I added the light first into the SwitchBot app and then into Apple Home via the Matter integration. All that fun stuff that you're going to want to play around with is largely in the SwitchBot app. You're just going to be using Apple Home for scenes and automations. Next, that brings me to the P2 motion sensor. And I think this is going to go in my Smart Home Logic series because we're going to talk about motion sensor placement for very specific purposes. This light has a functional purpose, a nightlight, maybe for when we get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. And we want it to trigger right when we need it, but not when we say roll over in the middle of the night. So it can't just go in the corner of the room. I tried a few places where you might find success, but I landed on mounting it upside down to the bottom side of Lisa's nightstand. This way, the motion sensor will trigger on any motion on this side of the bed, which happens to be right near the door and on the route to the bathroom. From my side of the bed, I have to take a few steps in the dark at first, but that's okay. I like the P2 because it comes with that articulating mount that I can use to give it a little bit of separation from the underside of the nightstand and get it a little bit closer to the ground. I'm using the underside of the nightstand to block the sensor from seeing any motion that happens on the bed. Here's why I think a presence sensor is actually overkill. This motion sensor has a very specific function: trigger a device when feet walk past it. And in that same regard, I actually didn't put the motion sensor in our bedroom in Apple Home. I put it in a hidden room called accessory because it's not really a true representation of motion in the room. It's seeing a very narrow area. Maybe later on, I'll put a presence sensor in the room with bigger duties like controlling the lights, the fan, or even the thermostat. And I didn't want this competing in any way. Now for the automation, easy peasy. When occupancy is detected, for time, let's do specific times like 11 p.m. to 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. So this automation isn't running all day long. Hit next, turn on the light. Set it super low, like 1%. You could have it turn on the bathroom light while you're at it and then have them both turn off 3 minutes later. The end. I don't have my automation set to turn the light off after 3 minutes. Mine actually starts a 30-second timer when it stops detecting motion. And if that timer finishes without being interrupted by new motion, then the lights will turn off. Head over to my motion versus presence sensor video to see just how to do this in Apple Home. Very quickly, here's my obligatory, it was faster and more fun to do this in Homey section. Here are the flows that make this automation possible in Homey. First flow, the motion alarm turned on, and it's between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. or 6 a.m., whatever you chose. Turn on the light and stop the bed timer, which in this case hadn't started yet, but you'll see. The second flow, the motion alarm turned off and it's between 11 p.m. and 6 a.m. Start the timer. Basically, I have 30 seconds to move again and trigger the sensor, and we're back up at that top flow and the timer stops. Last flow, the timer reaches 0, as in no motion triggered in that 30 seconds, then turn the lights off. This is the automation I use for every motion sensor in my house, and it's perfect for this purpose, for bathrooms, for the laundry room, etc. Presence sensors are good for your office, your living room, your kitchen, maybe higher up on the bedroom wall. So that's the functional aspect of the bed light, but I said aesthetically too. This is the perfect addition for lighting scenes for cool accent lighting. Add this to your dimmed-in bedroom scene and pick an accent color. You can also go into the SwitchBot app and change the different sections of lights for a more festive color as well. So that's the bed light using the SwitchBot light strip, the Aqara P2 motion sensor, and a smart automation. If you haven't yet, please like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, and I'll see you next week.